The USA Today ranked their top 25 quarterbacks. So where does Kevin Jennings fall? We'll talk about it here on Locked On SMU.
You are Locked On SMU, your daily podcast on the SMU Mustangs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
A Tuesday edition of Locked On SMU here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every single day. Thank you as always for making us your first listen of the day, and be sure to find the podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you get your podcast. I'm Grayson Singleton, and coming up on today's show, we are going to talk about Kevin Jennings, but we're also going to talk about the tough quarterback schedule that SMU has to play, also based on the same article I referenced in the open. We're also going to continue our evaluations of the position rooms heading into the season, and keeping with the theme today, it's only right that we do the quarterback room. So that's what's coming up on in the next half hour or show. Again, I'm Grayson Singleton. Glad you're with me today. Let's jump right into it. Kevin Jennings where do you think, before I go any further, where do you think Kevin Jennings would fall in the hierarchy of college football quarterbacks? Put it down below in the comments. Top 10, top 15, top 25, outside the top 25. Where do you think Kevin Jennings falls? Now, I'm going to give you the answer according to USA Today in just a moment, but I'll tell you where I thought Kevin Jennings was going to fall. I perceive Kevin Jennings to this point in his career as a top 22 to 30, maybe even a little bit lower than 30 quarterback in the country. A guy that showed promise, a guy that looks like he can quarterback a team to the national championship picture, but a dude that had a little bit more refining to do, especially upstairs. You know, there was too many turnovers for a guy who didn't even start the season at quarterback. 11 interceptions is a little bit much, especially 11 interceptions to 23 passing touchdowns. Now, if you include the rushing touchdowns, that's 28. But that's a ratio that you don't necessarily feel the best about, right? But it is, however, a dude that if you project forward, a guy who could leap into that top 15, top 10 range. So for me, before I read this list, I thought, okay, maybe 18 at the highest, but I would perceive him around the 22 to 30, maybe 28, maybe 22 to 25, 27 kind of range. That's where I was thinking Kevin Jennings was going to fall. Lo and behold, I was wrong. And boy, I was very wrong, because my evaluation was just a little bit off. So where does Kevin Jennings fall in USA Today's top 25 quarterback rankings? Well, number one, he's in it. We could get that out of the way. He is number 10. The USA Today has Kevin Jennings as the 10th best quarterback in college football heading into the 2025 campaign. Here's what the USA Today had to say. Jennings was a stud last year, helping SMU to the ACC title game and the college football playoff. Going into year 4 at SMU, the Mustangs quarterback proved he could sling it. He had a solid completion percentage, 65, but like Carson Beck, needs to cut down on the turnovers. He had 11 interceptions last season, but should be solid enough to keep SMU in the playoff running again. Now, I have said in previous shows, I expect Kevin Jennings to take that leap that could take him into the top 10. I believe that his decision-making is going to be better. I predict that his mental side of the game, the processing of information, pre-snap, post-snap, that kind of thing, is going to be better. I think the arm's going to improve too. I think his command totally of the offense is going to be that much better because he's going into the season as the starter. And that has been my logic for why I think Arch Manning is going to be really good as well at Texas, is that when you're going into the season as a starter and you get the offseason knowing that I'm the dude, your command and your poise in leading the offense gets better with that. So I do think he is going to take that leap. Now, let's look at the quarterbacks behind him for a second, because when you think of who's top 10, okay, who's behind him? Who did he jump? Sawyer Robinson, Josh Hoover. This is not in any particular order, by the way. Nico Iamaleava, Dylan Raiola, Luke Altmaier, Haynes King, Rocco Becht, Dante Moore, Darian Mitza, Fernando Mendoza. Those are the next 10. Again, not in the order they're actually ranked. And I did that for a reason. Do you think any of those dudes are better than Kevin Jennings? And quite frankly, my answer is no. I don't. Do you? I don't think Sawyer Robinson and Jack Hoover, Haynes King is might be the most interesting quarterback in all of college football because we have literally nothing. We know nothing how to do about with Haynes King. We don't know. Iamaleava, we all know that saga. We don't need to relitigate that. Rocco Becht is solid. I think Rocco Becht is a little bit highly rated here. I would drop him closer to 20. But none of those dudes, I think, are better than Kevin Jennings. And none of those dudes, I think, are going to be better than Kevin Jennings next year. Which, if you're SMU, doesn't that kind of feel good? Going into the year with a quarterback who has a lot of improvement to get done, a lot of room for it, an improvement that I think is going to be fruitful. I think he's going to show those improvements because a lot of it, quite frankly, what I just named, a lot of it has to do with the fact that he's got another year in the offense and this year he's coming in as a starter. I think just by virtue of that alone, if he just puts in the work that a presumed starting quarterback does, I think his game elevates just because of that. So if you're SMU and you're thinking, okay, we've got a pretty tough schedule. It's not an easy one by any stretch of the imagination. You have to go to TCU. Baylor's a game at home, but Baylor's no scrub. And then you've got to go to Clemson. You've got Miami. Louisville is interesting. So you don't have any kind of a cakewalk schedule, but you've got a top 10 quarterback in the country. I think that should make you feel really good. And all of this kind of comes back to, have you not noticed this? Because I'm starting to. The more topics we do on SMU and the longer I do this show, the more things I talk about, the more I come back to, I feel pretty confident SMU can get back to the college football playoff. I really do. I know some people are going to say Miami's going to be better. They could. Florida State's not going to be as bad as they were. They ain't going to be as good as SMU, I don't think. Now, Thomas Castellanos is their quarterback. No, I don't think so. I see a more than feasible path that SMU gets back to the the college football playoff and the ACC championship. Now, are they going to have to stay healthy this year? Yeah, they will. And they dealt with injuries last year. RJ Maryland, starting tight end. Knee injury in the middle of the season, forced him out. Matthew Hibner came in and replaced him well. But you are going to have good luck on the injury front. But if that holds true, and you've got a dude who can perform as a top 10 quarterback in the entire country, I think he's a top 3 quarterback in the league, minimum. I saw one site a couple of weeks ago that had Kevin Jennings as a dark horse to win the Heisman. Now, do I think that's going to happen? No. Don't come away from this episode thinking that I think Kevin Jennings is going to win the Heisman, because I don't. But if he's a top 10 quarterback and that defense plays even approximating the level it played last year, and RJ Maryland is back and healthy, and you figure out what you got at running back, and the offensive line, which I believe will stay solid, does stay solid, SMU's back in the college football playoff. You can book that. You can book SMU back to the college football playoff with a top 10 quarterback in the country with everything else around it, assuming health. So that's how I feel about Kevin Jennings. Was I shocked a little bit that he was top 10? Yeah. Would I have been shocked if he was top 15? No. I think I had him a little bit lower, and I may have underestimated that. But the rest of the list, which we're going to go through in a second, by the way, because it ties into SMU's schedule, the rest of the list is based heavily on guys taking jumps. And by that logic, hell yeah, Kevin Jennings is a top 10 quarterback in the country. And coming up next, we're going to go through that list, because guess who is on SMU's schedule? A ton of dudes on that list. Stay with us here, Locked On SMU. This episode today is brought to you by Gametime. We've all been there, logging on early and waiting forever, refreshing for concert tickets to go on a site, only to lose that spot for a show that you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making a bunch of memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping. And that's where Gametime comes in. Gametime makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever. Prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. With Gametime, the price you see is the price you pay. It's one of my favorite features about the Gametime app. Their fees are included. There are no hidden fees. You can view what the ticket costs you, fees included right there, so you know what you're paying. Take the guesswork out of buying concert and show tickets with Gametime. Download the Gametime app and create an account and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off. Download the Gametime app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price, and always guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On SMU. I'm Grayson Singleton, and since you've made it so far in this show, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. Just scroll down a little bit, subscribe to our channel. That way you get notified every time these episodes will premiere. By the way, new episodes premiere every day at 1 p.m. Central Time, so make sure you have those notifications on for when every episode is going to drop Monday through Friday. And while you're at it as well, go ahead and follow me on Twitter at Gray_Singleton2. It's right there at the bottom of the screen. I post updates and things throughout the week, my opinions on certain things, and I would love to interact and engage with all of you. So SMU is going to face more than a couple of the quarterbacks that are in the article that we talked about in the last segment from the USA Today. The USA Today ranked Kevin Jennings as the 10th best quarterback in the country heading into 2025. Now, where do some of SMU's opponents land on this list? Well, it shouldn't shock you, but you don't have to wait long to find one of them, because at number one on the list is Clemson's Cade Klubnik. Now, this I think is obvious. I don't think there should be any argument as to who the best quarterback in the country coming in this season is. I think it would be Cade Klubnik. I would probably pick Cade Klubnik to win the Heisman Trophy. Does that mean I think Clemson is going to beat SMU in the regular season in Death Valley? Does it mean that I think Clemson is going to beat SMU in a potential rematch in the ACC championship game? No, it does not. But I do think heading into the year, Cade Klubnik, and you're going to see this a lot on this list, why I think this. Cade Klubnik not only is one of the most talented quarterbacks in the country, but he is by far the most proven quarterback in the country. Arm, athleticism, mobility, got all of that, but he's done it for multiple years in a way that pretty much nobody else on those lists, especially in the top 10, has done multiple years of really quality performance like Cade Klubnik does. So Clemson's going to play him. Number 2 on the list is Drew Aller. Clemson won't see him. Arch Manning from Texas, number 3. Garrett Nussmeier from LSU is number 4. And that's when my last argument kind of starts to dissipate, because we know Nussmeier, but again, he's only had one great year. Sam Leavitt from Arizona State is number 5, maybe a bit high for me. John Mateer, the transfer from Washington State to Oklahoma, is number 6. Again, not a guy who has proven it on the biggest stage. He played well at Washington State, who was playing in the remnant of the Pac-12. So we'll see how John Mateer translates to the SEC. DJ Lagway at 8, Lenore Sellers at 9, DJ Lagway at 7, Lenore Sellers at 8. Carson Beck is our next SMU opponent quarterback on this list. Beck steps in, obviously, for Cam Ward, transferring over from Georgia. Now, Carson Beck is a guy, and you may disagree with me, but I think Carson Beck still has some really good college football left to play. I think what made Carson Beck a favorite to go number 1 overall in this past year's draft heading into last college football season, I think a lot of that is still there. Now, he's coming off of elbow surgery and a pretty bad elbow injury that he suffered in the SEC championship game. So we don't know how healthy he's going to be, but if he is healthy, this is still a dude with a big arm. He can move around a little bit. I think he always has had pretty good command of whatever offense he's been in. I like his upstairs. So as long as he doesn't turn the ball over, which, by the way, last year was an anomaly considering the rest of what we had seen from Carson Beck. So if he doesn't turn the ball over, Carson Beck, I think, can be a really good quarterback who still has some really good college football left to play. So number 10 is when we get to Kevin Jennings. Now, number 11 and 12, this is why I went through 11 through 20 out of order, because 11 and 12 are dudes that SMU is going to play. Sawyer Robinson from Baylor and Josh Hoover from TCU are 11 and 12 on the USA Today's quarterback rankings. Now, Sawyer Robinson, I think, is a guy, or Robertson, pardon me, is a dude that I think could take a jump because I think the team around him is going to be pretty solid. Now, does Baylor get better than its 8-5 year last year? Maybe. But keep this in mind, too. Is the Big 12 really that good? Sure, they're solid teams. Kansas State's solid team. Arizona State, I think, is going to be a solid team, even though I don't think they'll be as good as they were last year, but I still think they'll be solid. Colorado remains to be seen. TCU, I'm a little iffy on TCU. Texas Tech had the number 1 transfer class in the country, so keep that in mind as well. But I think the pieces around Sawyer Robertson, combined with him having another year, is going to be a recipe for improvement for Robertson. Hoover, on the other hand, TCU lost a ton of receivers. TCU lost a lot of production out of its receiver room, and I don't know if TCU is in the upper echelon, at least in the upper half of teams in the Big 12. So will that affect how Hoover's going to perform? Potentially. It potentially could. So I'm a little lower on Hoover than the USA Today is. And then you keep going down this list. Haynes King is there at 14, but SMU dodges Georgia Tech. And I don't know if dodges is the appropriate word there, but SMU does not play Georgia Tech. They also don't play number 18, Darian Mensah, on this list, and Duke. The next guy they play is Miller Moss, who's going to be the presumed starter at Louisville. Remember Miller Moss. Miller Moss was slated to be the heir apparent at USC to Caleb Williams. That didn't work out all that well, and Miller Moss got benched last year. He didn't finish the season as a starter. So he now is at Louisville, and this is a dude that I think is going to have a chip on his shoulder because he was supposed to be the next great Lincoln Riley protege, and it just did not turn out to be the case. It did not work. And does some of that have something to do with USC's move to the Big Ten? I think it could. But ultimately, it just didn't pan out for Moss at USC in his first season as Lincoln Riley starter. So he gets a fresh start at Louisville, a guy who's going to have a chip on his shoulder, and I think a guy that's going to perform well. So all in all, what we just went through is that SMU is going to have to face QB number 1, QB number 9, QBs number 11, 12, and 23 this season. And God knows where USA Today would have ranked Thomas Castellanos. He could have been anywhere from 25 to 30. He could have been below 35. I don't know. But USC's, or not USC, SMU, their schedule is littered with really good quarterbacks, which is why I think it is so paramount that Kevin Jennings make that leap. Because when you turn the ball over, and Kevin Jennings wasn't awful in this department, don't get me wrong, but he did turn the ball over 11 times to 23 passing touchdowns, not the ideal ratio. And when you turn the ball over, as obvious as this may seem, I think it's an important thing to point out. When you turn the ball over, not only are you giving the ball away, hence the word, but you're also taking out a scoring opportunity as well. This is true in basketball, it's true in football, is that when you give the ball away, you cannot score. You have taken that opportunity away. And I think SMU's got the players around Jennings where as long as you have the ball, you can score. With Jordan Hudson and Romello Brinson and RJ Maryland coming back and whatever they've got going on in the backfield, whatever that ends up being, whether it's TJ Harden or the sophomore this year or Chris Johnson coming over from Miami, whoever those dudes are going to have the ability to put the ball in the end zone or put you in position for 3. What you can't have your quarterback doing is taking that, snatching those opportunities out of your grasp. That's why it is so paramount that Kevin Jennings take that leap, because those other quarterbacks, Carson Beck, from what we've seen in his career, being turnover prone is an outlier. Cade Klubnik, he doesn't turn the ball over. sometimes Clemson can't move the ball, but it's not because Kate Klubnik's giving the ball away. Sawyer Robertson is a dual threat dude that can just move the ball and burrow the ball down the field. Hoover's a pretty solid quarterback. We'll see what they've got around him. And then Miller Moss is a dude who's going to be playing with his hair on fire. So it is tantamount that Kevin Jennings take care of the football. And I think with more understanding of the offense and a better sense of processing information post-snap and just another year as a quarterback is going to do him a service in making sure that he keeps the ball with the Mustangs. Now, does that mean he needs to go throw for 28 touchdowns and only throw 4 interceptions? I mean, that'd be great. Don't get me wrong. That'd be pretty good. But no. 3-to-1 touchdown interception ratio is what I'm looking for Kevin Jennings. Take care of the ball, get the ball to your dudes, let them do the rest, and then provide some highlight reel plays. That's it. And I think Kevin Jennings is more than capable of doing that. And while we're on the topic of quarterbacks, let's just tell you what SMU's got at quarterback outside of Kevin Jennings. All right, wrapping up the show here on a Tuesday on Locked On SMU. Let's continue our series going through every position room, and let's get to the signal caller. So we talked ad nauseum about Kevin Jennings, but Kevin Jennings is coming off of a year where he completed 65% of his passes, 3,245 passing yards, 23 touchdowns, 11 picks, and he ran for 354 yards and 5 touchdowns. Now, I think something we undersell about Kevin Jennings is the fact that he can run. Now, those rushing yards, college rushing yards, I've always found are so weird because unlike the NFL, collegiate stats takes into account sack loss yardage into your rushing totals. So we don't really know, but we can tell this. Kevin Jennings is mobile. Kevin Jennings is athletic, and he can make plays with his legs, and he can extend plays as well as getting the ball downfield with his feet. So Kevin Jennings is a dude, I think, that is a dual threat and a dude that if he cuts down his turnovers, dude's a baller, and he can lead SMU back to the college football playoff. But let's say Kevin Jennings has to miss a game or two because he sprains his ankle, right? High ankle sprain, has to miss a couple of games. What do the Mustangs have behind him? Well, you might remember this name, Tyler Van Dyke. Yep, he's a Mustang. Tyler Van Dyke started his career in Miami, went to Wisconsin last year, only played in 3 games, threw 1 touchdown, ran for a touchdown. That was about it. He's your second string quarterback. Had an up and down career at Miami, provided some good moments, thought he might be a dude that could go to the NFL in this past year's draft. That clearly didn't happen. And basically what happened is he entered the transfer portal. Miami brought over Cam Ward, who became the number 1 overall pick in the draft. He went to Wisconsin, which for a quarterback is a pretty questionable business decision. Going to Wisconsin. I mean, they haven't had a quarterback workout since when? Russell Wilson? That worked out at the next level. So not the greatest business decision, and clearly it didn't work out for him. So now here he is at SMU, and he would be the fallback plan if anything were to happen to Kevin Jennings. Now, Tyler Van Dyke, here's his value. Here's the upside to Tyler Van Dyke. If you have to go to him, he will not look like a deer in headlights. He's been through this. He's been in the ACC. He's been in the Big Ten. Now he's back in the ACC. I do think this would be the best offensive line he's played behind. And I do think it would be the best cast of characters around him that he would have played behind. So if you take that into account, with the fact that the dude does have an arm, he's not very mobile. He even came into college, I looked this up, as one of the higher rated, he was a 4-star. He was one of the higher rated pro-style quarterbacks, which is sophisticated terms for the dude's going to be in the pocket and he's not going to provide you a whole lot of upside mobily. So can he stand in the pocket and read a defense and make throws? Yes, he can, but he is limited athletically. But if something were to happen to Kevin Jennings and Brett Lashley and the staff decided, hey, we're going to go to Tyler Van Dyke, you should be able to tread water at minimum. At minimum, you should be able to tread water with him behind center. So who's behind Tyler Van Dyke? Well, a dude that we're all excited about. 4-star quarterback in the 2025 class from IMG Academy. hailing from San Antonio, Texas, Ty Hawkins. Exciting future for that dude. Do you want to go to him in 2025? My guess is probably not. My guess is you probably don't want to do that, which is what makes the addition of Tyler Van Dyke that much more interesting. You would probably want to go to him and then hopefully circle back around to Kevin Jennings when he's healthy, in the event that something happens to him. We're speaking hypothetically here. But Ty Hawkins is a dude with a strong, strong future. I like his arm. I like his mobility. I like his athleticism. I think he's pretty polished. Now, coming out of IMG, his stats aren't going to blow your doors off. Just over 1,000 passing yards, 10 passing touchdowns. But IMG Academy blows everybody out. Not to mention that they always have a stellar running game and stellar offensive line. So you can kind of put 2 and 2 together as to why the stats wouldn't knock your socks off from Ty Hawkins. But he is a quarterback that takes care of the ball, makes quick reads, can get the ball and distribute it to his playmakers. And that bodes well for a dude, by the way, coming out of high school into college. You already have that down. Decision-making, pretty good. Arm, that's great. Can distribute the football and run somebody's offense. There you go. Those are 3 or 4 check marks right there for Ty Hawkins. So I believe the dude who right now is about 6 foot, 195, 200 pounds, he'll put on more weight. He may even grow a couple inches before we actually see him. Ty Hawkins, the future is strong with that dude. But that, of course, is a dude that you're looking at 2026, maybe even 2027, probably 2026 down the line, if everything goes right with Kevin Jennings and he's able to move on to the next level. Now, behind him, we have one more quarterback who is currently on the roster, but then I do want to talk about the 2026 recruiting class, and I'm guessing you guys will know where I'm going with that. Charlie Pfizer, he's the last quarterback on the roster. He's redshirt junior. We've never really seen him. What we do know about Charlie Pfizer, he's a really smart kid. He was on the Dean's Honor Roll in his freshman year, and then he was last year all ACC academic team. So really smart dude, good in the classroom. That's Charlie Pfizer. We haven't seen him on the field before, and there's limited reason to believe that we will see him on the field anytime soon. Now, 2026 class, we all know 3-star quarterback Cole Leinert from California is in that class. He's currently one of the 20 commits that SMU has. Cole Leinert, he is a righty, unlike his dad, Matt, who played at USC, if you didn't get the connection right off the bat. But Cole Leinert is going to be the third player in that succession from Jennings to Hawkins and ultimately to him. And a guy who has come from a quarterback background. Don't underestimate that, because when you come from a quarterback background as your father, and then you're playing in all these 7-on-7 camps, and the quarterback coaching has elevated that much in recent years, you can predict that this dude is going to be a stud. But there's the quarterback room going into the 2025 season. Should be an interesting one. And if Jennings can improve and we don't have to see the other dudes, SMU should be back in the college football playoff like they were a season ago. All right, that'll do it for this edition of Locked On SMU. Thanks to Gametime for their partnership with us. For your second listen, make sure you check out Locked On's The Portal with Brian Smith. He's got all your information so you can be the most informed fan on the portal, new signings, and everything like that. So find The Portal wherever you get your podcasts, and find this show wherever you get your podcasts as well. Remember, we premiere every single day at 1 p.m. on YouTube. I'm Grayson Singleton. We'll talk to you tomorrow. Take it easy, everybody.